We're going to go to our interview with Jeff Dickerson. Jeff, you there?
I am here. It's great to talk to you.
Great. How you doing, Jeff? So once again, this is ESPN Chicago and ESPN 1000 Bears beat writer Jeff Dickerson. Also attended the University of Illinois. I want to jump right into Bears talk with you. Just news that's kind of come out this week. Are the Bears going to cut Chester Taylor?
No, I don't believe that's going to happen. I'm not exactly sure where that report originated from. I can understand that people, you look at Chester Taylor's numbers, and I believe he only averaged about 2.4 yards per carry. So clearly his numbers will tell you he didn't have a real successful first season in Chicago. But he made all of his money, essentially, in year one. He made over $7 million last year. He's on the books for roughly $1.25 million this year. So if you're the Bears, you want to get a little more of a return on your investment. And since you already paid out your big money to Chester Taylor, it doesn't make a lot of sense trying to cut him or wanting to get rid of him, after only one season. Now, he's a good compliment to Matt Forte. Matt Forte likes Chester Taylor an awful lot. He's a veteran. He knows his blocking assignments. Yes, he has, didn't get a lot of yards again on the ground, but he's pretty decent in short yardage situations. So anything I think can happen because of this CBA uncertainty in the National Football League. So I would never rule anything out entirely, but based on the people I talked to, the Bears fully anticipate Chester Taylor being on this team in 2011.
You're listening to Chalk Them Up on WPGU 107.1 with ESPNChicago.com and ESPN Radio 1000. Bears beat writer Jeff Dickerson. Jeff, there's a lot of restricted and unrestricted free agents we see on this Bears roster from this year. Just give us an idea of who do you think is going to stay in a Bears uniform next year and who we will not see next year for Chicago.
Well, I think number one, in terms of guys who are unrestricted, I really think they should bring back Olin Kreutz. I know that Olin's best days are behind him. He's no longer a Pro Bowl caliber center, but that position is just so important on this Bears offensive line. You've got Mike Tice, who has a lot of pass protection schemes that he carries as the offensive line coach. You got a kind of a temperamental quarterback, shall we say. So I really think you're going to have some moving pieces at the tackle spots this year, maybe a new left guard. So I really think bringing Kreutz back is a big priority. I think that's something that's going to have to be done for them. I think bringing Brad Maynard back is something the Bears have talked about. I know that if you look just purely at his numbers, yards per punt and net average, it's very bad. But what Brad Maynard does is he's a great directional kicker. The Bears don't ask Brad Maynard very often kick the ball 50 yards in the air. They want him to angle it towards the sideline and pin a team deep inside their own territory. Brad Maynard had 24 punts inside the 20 this year, so he certainly brings them, I think, value. And I think, you don't pay a lot for punters, obviously. So bringing Brad Maynard back is probably number two on their to-do list in terms of guys who are unrestricted. You got to do something with Pisatino Isamoa or Nick Roach. Now, Roach was restricted last year. We'll see how the CBA works out in terms of how many years of accrued service you have to be an unrestricted free agent in this new CBA, if in fact there is a new CBA. So one of those two guys probably stays. One of those two guys probably goes. Anthony Adams is a nice defensive tackle. I like him maybe as that third defensive tackle in a rotation. Probably will try to do something to bring him back. And they've said they've made lowball offers to a bunch of guys. I'm talking about real contract offers, not something that, you can sign a guy for the, bottom basement price, kind of like they did with Matt Toina. As far as guys who are going to leave, one of those strong side linebackers probably goes. I think Daniel Manning likely makes a lot more money on the open market. The Bears have Major Wright. Perfect situation for them would be to have Major Wright be their free safety next year. Let Chris Harris slide down into the box and play more strong safety. I personally like Daniel Manning an awful lot, but my guess is teams out there that need safety help will pay more money for Daniel Manning than the Bears are willing to spend to keep him here. So, yeah, a lot of things, a lot of moving pieces, a lot of moving parts. And we'll be curious to see, what happens with the labor situation, how proactive the Bears are to try to sign some of these guys to deals before that March 4th deadline or March 3rd deadline when that current CBA expires.
And assuming that there is a deal that it gets signed, so there will be an NFL season next year, do you think that, other than bringing guys back, the Bears are going to be aggressive in their pursuit of maybe bringing in some help on the offensive end? Do you think that this is the year that the Bears front office finally acknowledges that they need a big threat wide receiver who can go over the middle Or are they going to just settle on Devin Aroshmadu again throughout training camp and then, never play him?
Yeah. Well, I can guarantee you Devin Aroshmadu won't be here next year. There's no way that's going to happen. He's gone. But, it's interesting because the Bears spent a lot of money last year, and they spent it on Julius Peppers very wisely. Chester Taylor, well, we can go both ways on that one. Now, Brandon Manu-Maliuna, in my opinion, was a complete waste of money, but they still paid him an awful lot. So Jerry Angelo was given the authority last offseason to go out and spend some serious dollars. Are the McCaskies going to do that again? That's a great question. I just don't know. But they need help on offense. They need a wide receiver. I don't know how much of their resources in the offseason they're going to allocate to finding that wide receiver. I think if you were to ask the Bears to a man privately, their most important priority on the offensive side is to get the line right. And there's a lot of things that have to go right with that offensive line. I mean, if you bring Krutz back, that's great. You've got Garza as a pretty decent right guard. They're high on Jamarcus Webb, but, I thought Jamarcus Webb was just kind of average. He was pressed into duty. He wasn't ready to play last year as a seventh-round pick out of West Texas A&M. But you have to figure one of those offensive line, one of those tackle spots probably is going to be earmarked for Jamarcus Webb. But then what do? Frank Omiel, I want to say, gave up the most sacks of any tackle in the NFL last year. Do you bring him back? Chris Williams is not a guard. I'll tell you that right now. Now, people say he's a decent tackle. I've never been knocked out with him in a tackle either. So you have to do something with the line. You have to probably get a guard, maybe draft a tackle. I think those are two bigger priorities for the Bears than finding that wide receiver, although I do think they need one. But you hear names like Sidney Rice. I just don't know if the Bears are going to spend that type of money on a wideout. They got burned doing it once with Muhsin Muhammad, and ever since then, Jerry Angelo has been very hesitant to give big money to wide receivers, especially those guys who are over 30 years old. So interesting to see what the McCaskey family gives the Bears the green light to do. I can't guarantee you that after spending a lot of money last year, it's a guarantee they'll spend a lot of money this offseason.